billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I welcome you to another session of my course titled Globalization and Development. Today I am going to discuss the negative and dark side of globalization. I will examine how the different imports, which are termed as dangerous imports, are affecting different societies across the world due to globalization. Then we will examine the borderless diseases such as HIV/AIDS, avian flu, SARS, Ebola, etc., and their impact and effect on the globally on the entire human societies. We will then see and examine the effect of terrorism, drugs, and human trafficking on the different societies. We will also see that how the crime has been globalized, and finally we will conclude by understanding and constructing a general picture of the overall impact of globalization on the human culture, human societies, and human civilization. That whether it has contributed to the progress and development of the human societies, or it has damaged the integrity and continuity of the human cultures and human societies. Now, as we have discussed in my previous lectures, that globalization is essentially and fundamentally, this is my thesis and this is my proposition, is an economic one. It is manifested through the economization, through the materialization, through the dollarization of relationships, whether they are social, whether they are political, or whether they are cultural. They have become monetized and they are driven by the need and necessities of capitalistic self-interest. That is globalization, simply. Although we find sociological interpretations who look at globalization not simply from the point of view of economics, but they say that it has a broader social and cultural and political framework. Then there are people who just simply say that globalization has created a negative impact. It has become a totally negative force in the world systems, and its contribution is in no way significant, because it has not contributed anything significant to the overall moral and spiritual well-being and development and evolution of the society. So, on the one hand, you will find people like Anthony Giddens, a leading sociologist, a proponent and foremost representative of an overarching and powering concept of globalization. In fact, through this concept he sees the domination of the Western culture and civilization on the entire world. While on the critical side you find Beaumont, Zygmunt Beaumont, who has dubbed globalization as negative and who says that nothing positive has come out of globalization. So, instead of uh, looking at from these two angles, I would like to invite you and I would like to raise the question that is globalization is a sustainable, viable and irreversible form of social organization? Have the societies moved from some previous lower social state to a more advanced social and cultural state? My answer to this question is a simple no. No, we haven't moved. Instead, in globalizing the political economy of the world, in globalizing the trade, products and services, because globalization is manifested primarily through the economic relationship of trading, through the economic relationship of exchange of goods and products, and through the economic relationship of uh, exchange of services and uh, um, qualities, services and facilities to the entire world. So, it is essentially an economic, you can say, if we want to say that there is some special evolutionary stage has been reached by the human societies, we can say that it is the expansion of the neoliberal capitalism from the West European, from the Northern American hemisphere to the rest of the world. And strangely and ironically, the most fundamental and crucial role played in globalization was by a country who was communist in its ideology, in its doctrine, and that is People's Republic of China. It was the outsourcing of the North American lower and middle and advanced manufacturing and machinery and its manufacturing in China during the 80s, which has mainly established the contemporary and present day value chain and uh, supply chains of the global economic system, global political economy. And this model then spread to other parts of the world, to Malaysia, to Indonesia, to India, and to some extent Pakistan, and to the Middle East and Africa. So, what is important, what is significant to be noticed, to be observed is that the so called rapid expansion and growth of the neoliberal global political economy has caused a correlate decline in the moral and in the cultural identities of different human societies across the world, which is quite evident. But let me first, discuss and analyze the import of dangerous products. No, if you look at the production and manufacturing of a single product, you will see that in the production and manufacturing of a product, there is not one country, there is not one host country. There are number of countries, who are supplying to the manufacturing and who are supplying to the development of the product. If you as simple as the for example of the simple white bread, sweet white bread is made from different country, ingredients coming from different country to North America. The honey is coming from the Indian and the African parts, and the chemicals are coming from Malaysia, Indonesia, and ingredients are coming from different country, from Africa, from South Asia, from Far East, eastern countries, and they come to then to the North American. Now, the food standards within the US are entirely different than the food standards practiced and upheld in these countries. So, what happens that not only the ingredients are exported and imported to the US, but the contaminations attached with these products are also exported and imported. Similarly, when things move from western and North American hemispheres to the southern parts, to the Asian and African countries, they also bring their contaminations. There is no way you can say that things manufactured and created and developed in the western European and North American hemisphere are clean and of high quality, and they do not possess contaminating and polluting effect. They also possess contaminating and in certain circumstances they have created, they have led to the spread of disease, and they have led to the spread of, for example, outdated medicines which have been declared unfit for use in human inoculation in the USA have been exported by the pharma companies to the Asian and African countries. Similarly, look at the Nestle infant formula. It is banned in the Europe, West European and American continents, but the Nestle has exported it to the African countries, where the use of the formula has caused serious diseases, digestive and other problems to the infants in the African continent. So, there are products which are dangerous, and they are circulating throughout the world without any check, without any restriction. And when they are circulating without manufactured in one part, and they are not simply manufactured, for example, one thing is manufactured in China, it is not simply manufactured in China. Different parts are coming from different countries of the world. If something is manufactured in West European continent, it is not being solely different parts of that product are being manufactured in different parts of the country, and they come and then make a whole product. That is the cause of concern. Things being manufactured in different countries and then getting assembled in one part of the so called global assembly, getting assembled in one part of the world. So, what happens in the process of manufacturing and construction of a product, that the contaminations and different things which can lead to dangerous consequences and which can affect the human beings and their health are also exported to other countries. Now, this brings us to a very pertinent question, that of globalization of diseases. You see, if you look at the history of the world, the way diseases have spread during the so called period of globalization, which roughly starts during the 80s, but particularly from the end of the Cold War in 1989-90. You can fairly say that from then onward, the speed of expansion and growth in the global political economy, the global free market, the global access to different local and national economies, the dismantling of the eroding of the authority of the nation states, and the gradual and continuous strengthening and power becoming powerful of the corporations and companies of the multinational corporations and companies of the Western European and North American hemisphere has become more evident and more significant. So, the diseases of the Western Europe and North America were exported to the Asian and African country, and the number one in that order of export was HIV/AIDS. It was deducted during 1985-86. I remember I was a university student when for the first time I read this article in the Times magazine, in the Newsweek and Times. This was and the newspaper, this news was broken, that there is a disease, incurable disease has appeared in the human beings in North America, which is transmitted sexually. Its primary source of transmission is sexuality, act of sexual exchange between two human beings, and it's a very dangerous disease, and it is almost incurable. There are no cures for it. Then with the gradual, and how this disease then came to Africa and Asia and Far East, it was through the gradual weakening of the travel restrictions, through the expansion of tourism. Sex tourism particularly became a carrier of export of HIV/AIDS to the entire world, to South Asia, to Far East, to Thailand, to Indonesia, to Malaysia, to Burma, Vietnam, to China, to India, to Pakistan, to Middle East, to African continent, African country, Nigeria, Ghana, etc. No, the disease was deadly. Disease is deadly. HIV/AIDS is a deadly disease, and when it came to the developing and in certain cases poor countries, even underdeveloping countries, it became next to impossible for these countries to manage and control it. They didn't have the resources. Tropical diseases, diseases of African and Asian countries were different. Mild fever and flu and cough and mild infections, and who were cured by simple solutions and simple centuries old methods of treatment. But with the arrival of such dangerous and highly infectious disease such as in the case of HIV/AIDS, it radically changed the structure and composition of human relationship. Although it has now become it is now transmitted through blood transfusions, but primarily it is an STI, sexually transmitted infection. But the borderless societies and opening up of other areas which are cobble, which are free no man's land between Pakistan and Afghanistan, for example, between India and Bangladesh, Burma, regions of these areas, developing and underdeveloped nations, they are frequently Thailand countries, they have become the rich fertile land of such spread of such diseases. In Africa, African countries have become a fertile land for the spread of AIDS and HIV. So, the borderless and free of restriction global travel, particularly through tourism, through entertainment, the spread of disease became more rapid, more frequent. And then we find the appearance of avian flu, in 2010, we find the appearance of SARS-1 in China 2003, we find the breakout of Ebola in Africa and the Congo virus. And let me share with you that strangely, I was reading this book by globalization by George Ritzer, and this book was published in 2011, and in his discussion on avian flu, almost he predicted, he has predicted the appearance of, and there was a general consensus and opinion at that time in 2011, way back, that there is going to be a major outbreak of disease in the world, flu related disease, pandemic in the world, and who particularly after the appearance of avian flu, some kind of bird flu in 2006, in 7, 8, I think around that period this happened. This appeared, a flu caused, a contagious flu contracted by the human beings by touching the birds. The flu which came from the birds to the human beings, the virus came. That alarmed and alerted the observers, epidemiologists throughout the world, and they predicted the coming of a major pandemic. And here today we are faced with this coronavirus, this SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, the so-called COVID-19. And today, and at that time they were proudly, 2011 they were that, they have been able to control SARS-1, they have been able to control avian flu, they have been successful in controlling Ebola because of extra efficiency of the WHO's epidemic and pandemic management strategies, quick, highly developed healthcare infrastructure, and the rapid deployment of the resources globally, global development of networks, and global prediction and control of epidemiological data, and etc. Instead of praising and eulogizing the globalization of disease and health management. And today everybody is broken, everybody is shattered, including WHO. They have no cure in sight, because practically in reality WHO did not control and manage the SARS-1 avian flu. They didn't properly, they have not been successful to find a cure for AIDS HIV. All this globalization, all this free and borderless travel and migration throughout the world, has contributed nothing but the spread of disease to different parts of the world, to different societies. Societies who were insolent and who were secure and safe from deadly diseases are now exposed to these diseases, and the problem is multiplied because they do not have the kind of economic resources, they do not have that kind of money and dollars to control and manage the disease like the North Americans and like the West European countries. I mean, what do you expect from a country like Nigeria and Ghana and Mali, and Mauritius, these countries, backward African countries, developing countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, who are just sustaining, merely surviving. How can they spend a lot of money on the management of AIDS and HIV? So, when there is a epidemic and there is a outbreak of disease, these countries are utterly failure. They are at failure. They cannot manage those diseases because they do not have the resources. But here comes the real challenge in the form of coronavirus, in the form of this COVID-19 pandemic. It was predicted. I mean, if you go to, you can read the book. I have placed it into the course folder. You can read it. In 2011, Ritzer is clearly writing that there is in the backyard a major global pandemic is going to come, and we have to prepare for that. And nobody prepared. No world institution, no international global institution, particularly WHO, whose responsibility it was. So, what are they doing? Now, today if people are asking questions about their functioning and raising question about their authority and their structure and their so-called hold of the entire health systems of the world, they are right, because WHO has done nothing but to bureaucratize and control the entire medical and pharmaceutical professions of the world. And a bureaucracy, global bureaucracy in the name of health management and healthcare have emerged in sitting in New York and trying to prescribe solutions and formulas for cure and management of diseases. No, that is not the approach. The current pandemic has shown that different countries have to approach different countries have to approach disease in a different way, because their economic, their political, their social, their cultural circumstances and conditions are different. Now, North America is a very rich country, industrially advanced country, technologically advanced country. They have different kind of resources. They are managing COVID-19 in a different way. than from an African country. Ghana, for example, Zaire, Nigeria, from a country like Afghanistan, who were totally dependent on the American funding. Afghanistan, Afghan economy, Afghan society, Afghan politics is dependent. Similarly, Pakistan, heavily dependent on foreign aid. India, they are dealing with this disease in a different way, and it is the correct approach. We have to come out of the so called myth of global system and global governance and global management, and we have to reorganize and re-strengthen the local and national units of societies, so that diseases and other problems can be solved and managed at the local level. Mismanagement of AIDS, mismanagement of avian flu, mismanagement of SARS 1, mismanagement of Ebola outbreak, Congo, dengue, other the tropical diseases have gone to Europe. Why? Because of the climate and global climate change and global warming. A context created by globalization. The use of carbon fuels, hydrocarbons, excessive use of hydrocarbons, excessive use of burning of coal, emission of carbon into air has warmed the globe, has created greenhouse gases, and that has affected the European continent, due to which a variety of mosquitoes have entered into Europe, and they have caused this dengue like fever, malarial conditions in Europe. Tropical diseases have appeared in Europe. The diseases which were peculiar to Latin American or to Asian and African continents. So, it is painful, it is really painful, but the international leadership, the world leaders throughout their country have now to develop a localized approach. Globalized approach have failed in the management of disease. We need a localized approach, and we have to redraw the borders and boundaries of interaction. The so called borderless, boundaryless interaction between human beings belonging to different societies and different parts of the world have proven beyond any doubt to be unsuccessful, and have proven beyond any doubt to be a carrier of disease, and have proven beyond any doubt the destroyer of the human peace, world peace and security and safety. Today, and to this, what it has done, this it has not caused only the export of diseases, it has globalized the networks of mafias, drug mafias, it has globalized the networks of terrorism, it has globalized the networks of crime. But the time has come where the advanced northern and western European countries have to look at their behavior also, how they are dealing, how they are performing. Just because they are economically, they have more economic resources, they can do whatever they want. No, this is not how the international cooperation is going to move on, particularly after this disease. The world is not going to be as it was before COVID-19. It is not going to be like that. Every country has to establish its relationship with another country in a very protective and in a very careful manner, where they have to look what they require from them and what they can give to them. And you have to develop new rules and means of movement and immigration and boundaryless and borderless access to different countries. Visa restrictions, we have to revise visa and passport restrictions. Visa free passport travel, we have to control that, so that disease is not exported. Particularly tourism, we have to watch and redraw boundaries on tourism, because through tourism AIDS have spread, and through tourism this COVID-19 has also appeared in different parts of the world. It appeared in Wuhan, and from there the Chinese, they became the carrier, and they took it to Europe, Western Europe, to other Asian countries, to Australia, to Northern America, to Southern Asian hemisphere. They brought it because they were traveling unchecked and they were traveling without any restriction. Then you see big crime syndicates. If you and the communication, the so-called information tools, such as internet, has facilitated in the growth and globalization of crime. The money scams, OneCoin. I give you the example of OneCoin. There is this woman in Europe, she scammed a lot of billions of dollars from people in the name of OneCoin. Bitcoin is a different thing, OneCoin. Similarly, every other day you find scams, particularly financial scams. Then money laundering, tax havens in the northern and west European hemisphere. Europe and America has to redefine. If you are trying to create a world based on free market, then the rule should apply to each and every place. It's not that in the European hemisphere, in the northern, you have tax havens, you have capitals where the money from the developing and underdeveloped countries like Pakistan, the money launderers are sitting in London. They're living in Europe, West European countries, having real estate there, buying real estate there, investing there, keeping money in the Swiss banks, in the European banks, in the American banks, and the people back in their home countries, they are suffering economically because these money launderers, these global financial criminals. I would call this financial terrorism. This economic terrorism is more dangerous than the political terrorism of Al-Qaeda. The Europe and the North America was crying about the terrorism spread by the Al-Qaeda. They see Al-Qaeda even in the flight of a fly. Qaedaism, so called, they invented the term of Qaedaism. But what the Americans did with the Afghans and with the Iraqis, with the Syrians, have they examined and have they analyzed their own attitude, their own geopolitical behavior? No, they are not ready to listen because they have their own geopolitical interest in the region. So, terrorism, disease, drugs, crimes, woman and child trafficking, they are all interconnected. If you say that cultivation poppy is wrong in Afghanistan, then similarly the use of marijuana, the use of cannabis, the use of cocaine in North America and Canada should be illegal. It's wrong there also. You cannot apply double standard. You are consuming, you are legalizing marijuana and cannabis in North America. You have legalized it in Canada, but you say that heroin and meth and other drugs are haram, they are forbidden, they are wrong for the Asians to produce and consume. How can you then say that globalization is a next milestone in the human history of social evolution, social system? No, sir, no. I beg to disagree and I beg to differ with it. Globalization has become a relationship of, as I have told, master and slave. Globalization must be seen as a paradigm of cultural disintegration. Globalization must be seen as an exercise in cultural disintegration. It is nothing but a theory of cultural disintegration. It is nothing but a theory of master-slave relationship between the North and the South, cultural disintegration of the South by the North. It is nothing but the cultural imperialism of the North by the South. Globalization is nothing but the moral decay, moral decline. It is a theory of moral decline, sexual perversion, sexual disorientation, not sexual orientation. It is the it is the universal and so much internationalization of pervert Western cultural, Western sexual practices. It is nothing but the spread of pornography, child sexual graphic material on the internet. What is globalization, my dear? And it has caused tremendous cultural and social and political damage in countries like Pakistan, countries like India, countries like Thailand, Far Eastern countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, countries like Middle East, Middle Eastern and African traditional countries. There is more to man than just the economic creation of a growth, economic growth paradise created out of economic growth. That today you have $10, yesterday you should have $20, $200, $200,000, $2 million, $2 billion. And ironically, on the other hand, on the one hand you are promoting neoliberal economic philosophy, neoliberal political order, neoliberal culturalism, neoliberal morality, fatherless, motherless morality, and on the other hand you want to contain and retain all these countries of the world as slaves, as subjugated subsidiaries of the Western and North American civilization of culture. This is what is actually happening. But this pandemic, this COVID-19 has come to break down and shatter that structure of exploitation. It was not structure of economic growth. It was not structure of maybe some people have made money. Few thousand, few hundred in Western European and North American billionaires, so-called new billionaires of the globalization. But what this has contributed in countries like Pakistan and India, criminal mafias and money laundering mafias, people who have opened up their societies and economies to the global economic philosophy, and what they got in return, that their money and their resources were drained and drifted to London, to New York, to France, to Italy, to Spain. And the rich classes of these rich people who had political and economic power in countries like Pakistan and India, countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, they became money people. They exported their money to safe havens, to tax-free havens in North, to island economies of the Western Europe, North America. So the nature applied this, whether this virus is man-made or it was made in a lab, or it was not made in a lab, or whether it appeared, human beings contacted it from a bat or a wet market in Wuhan, whether it is natural or man-made, whatever it is, it has seriously changed the geopolitical and economic orientation of the world. The world is not going to be same, and the kind of honeymoon which was enjoyed between USA and China, People's Republic of China, and the kind of honeymoon which the People's Republic of China was enjoying with the rest of the world, with Australia. Look at Australia. Australia is crying because the Chinese have bought real estate. Chinese have bought their land, my friend. Is this globalization? That you have money and you are buying the land of the local people. You have become so influential and you are so powerful that that the governments of those countries are bowing down. They are kneeling down before you. Similarly, Chinese have bought property in Africa, real estate, in Europe, in America. What kind of globalization is this? What kind of economic growth and economic progress is this? You don't have cure for the diseases, but you have money to buy land in Scotland, to buy land in real estate in London, to buy land and real estate in southern France, and buy land in Italy, in North America, other parts of the world. The capitalist president of executive managing director of the IMF or GBI, she was crying like anything. She said that during this pandemic, $5 trillion, $3 trillion roughly dollars have moved from the poor countries to the rich countries. How will people of these poor countries, these developing nations, manage this COVID-19 with their meager resources, with their stumbling and their declining GDPs? But nobody is. We have to draw the boundaries. We have to draw the limits of interaction, and certain industries cannot go on unchecked and scot free, like tourism, like pharmaceuticals, like health sector, education. So, the free markets of economics have led to the free markets of politics, of free markets of health, free markets of education. People in maybe in economically advanced countries might afford these free markets, but countries like Pakistan, like India, how can you afford these free markets of health and free markets of education and politics in where buying and selling of human beings, human flesh is taking place, and people have become helpless and hapless. They have no other option but to go into prostitution, to go into the selling of their children, to go into the selling and buying in politics. People sell them in sports. Even this globalization have affected sports. So called league cricket. What is happening in league cricket? Fixing. What the actors are doing in the cricket? Prostitution, sexuality, alcohol, drugs, money, and cricket going hand in hand. Is this globalization? And is this the positive side of globalization? Bioman is right. This is the negative globalization. It has destroyed the tranquility and order and peace of the traditional societies. But can we return to the traditional societies? I don't think that would be possible now. We can chart a middle way, where we have to restore the spiritual and moral import and meaning to our economic and our material progress. We have to contain and limit it and bring it with certain limits and boundaries. When you say free market, that does not mean that there are no social and legal and other controls on that activity. Corporates are doing whatever they want to do throughout the world, whatever they want to manufacture and export. We have to revise and criticize the logic of globalization. Make money, make profit, develop materially, grow economically, even if you have to kill your fellow human being. What to say a fellow believer, a fellow Muslim killing another fellow Muslim just to get a promotion, just to make money, more money. So, what has happened in the process of this so called neoliberal economic free market of the globe, that religion, morality, ethics, spirituality, traditions, values, everything has been taken away. Everything has been shattered and fractured, and this has led to the crisis in which the human beings are today. Crisis of alienation, crisis of isolation, where one man is not ready to talk to another man. And the appearance of this pandemic, which is, you can save yourself by social distance, by not shaking hands, by staying away 6-7 feet. Already we were at a distance from each other, because those who have money, those who had resources of control of resources, they were, behaving like masters and treating the other rest of the human as slaves. So the time has come. I invite you to, people have been predicting, go and read George Ritzer and other people. People have been predicting about the arrival of, and this is, I think, is going to be ceiling of the globalization, the emergence of this COVID-19. And it is now the trade, the services, the information war, the cyber war, all these things are going to change in coming days and years. The world is not going to be same. Thank you very much for today.